Hello, welcome in. What's going on? I think things are working. Always exciting. It's like most of the time I don't touch this computer. Things are fine. Got this microphone right here. I don't really look at the bracket, but it was kind of out of position today. And I'm like, why is this someone starting to try to get back? Like, did someone bump it? I don't recall bumping it myself. Did someone else come in here and bump it? What's up, Tindarius? This thing was on the last little bit of the desk and was about to keel over. I was like, oh my god, that would have been so bad. Because this is a glass top desk and it's got a metal bracket on it and it was already at the last little bit of holding it. It's like, oh, if it's not one thing, it's something else. It's gonna break on you. Anyway, how you doing, Tindarius? Hope you're well. Hope everything's going okay with you. Things are okay with me. I've been thinking about Descartes and skepticism. There's a few things, I don't know too much about it. It's one of these really, really massive topics because everyone knows the I think, therefore I am. It's well, now we know we exist because you think. The trouble in philosophy, it's like a lot of things in philosophy. Everyone believes, hey, Semiotics. How you doing? Welcome in. Everyone believes that you exist and that the world exists. The question isn't that people are really denying it, except for oh, it could be better, but all right. Okay, well, as long as it's all right, that's good enough for now. I guess you can work on it, get things going better. It's not the question of do you exist or does anything exist? It's how do you explain why that statement seems to mean so much to so many people? I think, therefore I am. Yeah, I figured you could be better. So yeah, answer to your whispers, yes stream and yes plug. Okay, so wait till some more people here, for that stuff. Let's see what to say. Yeah. That's fine. Okay, more to come. Yeah, sure. So, this is one thing. Now, how do you actually go about explaining why I think, therefore I am has any sort of special meaning? Could I do the following for fun? Add some strange object to your background in your messy room and see who notices? Easter egging? Yeah, one of those find out what's different, what's different in these two images. I could, turn this book around or something. Yeah, book was facing the other way last week. Who noticed? So, yeah, the problem is sometimes other people go in here. You're probably going to bed, fix your sleep schedule. Okay, well, I'm happy you're going to bed and you can fix your sleep schedule. Do you want me to read the Nietzsche anytime while you're here? Or I can just, put that off till one day when you break your sleep schedule again, or maybe I'll do an earlier stream. Yeah, I could definitely do something more fun since Semiotics and turn the book around. But yeah, I get the idea. But yeah, Tindarius, let me know. Just send me a thing on Discord because I was gonna read the that Nietzsche article for you, and if you're not here, it's kind of I could do it anyway. But I might as well wait till you're gonna be around. So you let me know because I had it's right here on Truth and Lies in a Non-Moral Sense. We could read it now. I could jump in right now if you want to stay up, but I don't want to break your sleep schedule either. I'd rather you get healthy and sleep schedule and feel good. You're down for Nietzsche? Okay. Let's see, where was that? Jump right into it. Downloads. Stay up, dude. FL. Yeah, do not be listening to Semiotics. Although he does know what he's talking about, that doesn't mean he's a good actor. He may not be in you're looking out for your best interest. So what do we got? Yeah, so it's oh, I wasn't even showing stuff. Yeah, it's right here. Nietzsche will cure you? Yeah, right. Okay. So, yeah, this is, we're gonna jump right in so, we can get Tindarius to bed in a reasonable amount of time, So... maybe we'll do some more just chatting later. But, okay. So, there is a bedtime story. Yeah, exactly. keeping, and I feel slightly bad, but like if you want to read it right now, we'll do it. All right, so you picked it on the night when we had been reading the paper of the guy talking crap about Nietzsche. Yeah, that was really disappointing too, because the guy obviously had read lots of Nietzsche, understood lots, but it looked like he kind of missed the overall picture of what Nietzsche was up to. It was like, dude, Nietzsche is not writing a like analytic philosophy textbook where he's like, oh yeah, think of this thought experiment and then compare it to your life. It's like, that's not what he was up to. He was explicitly writing parables and things like that, like just so stories, like and so is because Nietzsche is a genius. No, well, Nietzsche is I mean, if you want to talk about philosophical geniuses, it's gonna be pretty close. All right, but here we go. We're gonna do this on Truth and Lies in a Non-Moral Sense, because Tindarius want to read some Nietzsche. And yeah, so he was for philosophy at least. I don't know about other things, but yeah. Okay, here we go. And as always, anyone in chat, please feel free to chime in as we go, and we'll give it a little rating at the end if it's appropriate. I didn't rate the monadology because we got halfway through and we're just like, oh god, he's just doing religious philosophy now. It's like, nope. And good evening, and we're jumping right into this because Darius has to get to bed, and it's he's in Europe, so. We're going to start reading quick, but how you doing, Anna? I hope you're doing well. All right. On Truth and Lies in a Non-Moral Sense by Friedrich Nietzsche, 1873. Once upon a time. You see, immediately, look, he's not writing philosophy textbooks. He's writing mythological stories. Once upon a time. This is a fantasy. In some out-of-the-way corner of that universe which is dispersed into numberless twinkling solar systems, there was a star upon which clever beasts invented knowing. That was the most arrogant and mendacious minute of world history. But nevertheless, it was only a minute. After nature had drawn a few breaths, the star cooled and congealed, and the clever beasts had to die. One might invent such a fable, and yet he still would not have adequately illustrated how miserable, how shadowy, and transient, how aimless and arbitrary the human intellect looks within nature. There were eternities during which it did not exist. And when it is all over with the human intellect, nothing will have happened. It's just so good. So good. We're a blip in the universe. And he's just being like, we're a blip in the universe. And the universe doesn't give a shit about us. Before we showed up, it's not going to give a shit about us. After we're gone, does not matter. Completely right. Brian, welcome in. Best beginning ever. Yeah, like this is talk about a solid start to a fucking paper. Semi-access fiction has throughout history been a reliable and accessible way to do philosophy. Yeah, and see, that's the genius of this. He's a real philosopher, and he's doing it in an accessible way. So hard to do. It's like what all the people online, all of our friends in Philosophy Friends and otherwise, are doing, making difficult things a little bit more accessible. Vehicle for philosophy, yeah, exactly. Tindaro says also, it's tiresome when people trash talking Nietzsche without even reading him. Of course. Like, it's one of these, like, you don't know what you're talking about and you're talking shit. Starting from an ambiguous premise, the universe is able to feel. Come on. And it's a joke, I know. Yeah. So, she's like, he's doing analytic philosophy and he's just laughing at us. Okay. Yeah. Ivan, how you doing? Yeah, I got to your stream, like, I was busy dealing with other shit this afternoon and, like, right now, and I got to your stream, and you were raiding out to Vox Sinistra. I like Vox Sinistra. I was watching a lot of Vox Sinistra a few years ago. Vox is cool. So, that's yeah. You've been melted down by Xfinity. I'm sorry to hear that. Does the universe consent to us feeling it? Well, since the universe created us, I assume that the universe is okay with what we're doing. It's, like, insignificant. That's what I would think. Is the universe? Oh dear. Yeah. And remember, I was saying, you think, therefore you are. Therefore you are. Like, isn't that brilliant? So yeah. You feel philosophical. There we go. Well, I'm happy to hear that, Anne. So I could use some red wine. Yeah, there were eternities during which it did not exist. That's great. We're old, and no, the universe is old and we're young, and it won't care about us. And when it is all over with human intellect, nothing will have happened. For this intellect has no additional mission which would lead it beyond human life. Rather, it is human, and only its possessor and begetter take it so solemnly, as though the world's axis turned within it. But if we could communicate with the gnat, we would learn that he likewise flies himself through the air with the same solemnity that he feels the flying center of the universe within himself. So Sensei says, look, we're in the womb, good call, we can't help it, consent is not possible. Yeah. There is nothing so reprehensible and unimportant in nature that it would not immediately swell up like a balloon at the slightest puff of this power of knowing. And just as every porter wants to have an admirer, so even the proudest of men, the philosopher, supposes that he sees on all sides the eyes of the universe telescopically focused upon his action and thought. See, one little thing here, this thing where it says, if we even asked a gnat how the gnat felt about itself, it would think it was the center of its universe. It only understood itself. Like, it's like we are no better than anything else that thinks that. It's like, yeah. There was an oblique reference to Superman. I didn't get it. You'll have to point out. But I'm just being happy I can read it. Like, this is well-written prose as opposed to some of the garbage I read on garbage prose. Not necessarily garbage philosophy, although there's plenty of that too. But like, this is good prose, and I can be like, the universe telescopically focused upon its action and thought. Like, I get to feel like I'm saying something here. Lumpy, how you doing? I'm full of yummy food because you cook. That sounds excellent. Go back the last few sentences. Dude, you have no idea how hard it is. I'm going forward. So is this like the gnat likewise flies through the air with the same solemnity? The flying center of the universe with himself? So even the proudest of men, the philosopher, supposes... you're ahead of me. I don't know enough about Superman to like bring it up, unfortunately. Yeah. Sorry. This is just like Superman is outside of my realm of knowledge. Yeah. It is remarkable that this was brought about by the intellect, which was certainly allotted to these most unfortunate, delicate, and ephemeral beings merely as a device for detaining them a minute within existence. For without this addition, they would have every reason to flee this existence as quickly as Lessing's sun. The pride connected with knowing and sensing lies like a blinding fog over the eyes and senses of men, thus deceiving them concerning the value of existence. For this pride contains within itself the most flattering estimation of the value of knowing. Deception is the most general effect of such pride, but even its most particular effects contain within themselves something of the same deceitful character. And ephemeral, exactly, Unreal, Ivan. Unreal says, probably a crab would be filled with the sense of personal outrage if it could hear us class it without ado or apologetic crustacean and thus dispose of it. I am no such thing, it would say. I am myself alone. William James. There we go. So this is, I wonder what, when William James said such a thing. Yeah. Yeah. As a means for the preserving of the individual, the intellect unfolds its principal powers of dissimulation, which is the means by which weaker, less robust individuals preserve themselves, since they have been denied the chance to wage the battle for existence with horns or with the sharp teeth of beasts of prey. This art of dissimulation reaches its peak in man. Deception, flattering, lying, deluding, talking behind the back, putting up a false front, living on borrowed splendor, wearing a mask, hiding behind convention, playing a role for others and for oneself. In short, a continuous fluttering around the solitary flame of vanity is so much the rule and the law among men that there is almost nothing which is less comprehensible than how an honest and pure drive for truth could have arisen among them. Yeah, we're playing classics. Yeah, welcome in, Valpo. Tindarius had recommended this earlier, a few weeks ago, and he's actually trying to not ruin his sleep schedule, so I'm doing it as early as possible. Varieties of Religious Experience, 1902. Interesting, because, yeah, this is 1873, so, you know, sometimes he may not have read Nietzsche, but it may have been sort of the thing in the air back in that, like, time period. Okay, they are deeply immersed in illusions and dream images. Their eyes merely glide over the surface of things and see forms. Their senses nowhere lead to truth. On the contrary, they are content to receive stimuli and, as it were, to engage in a groping game on the backs of things. Moreover, man permits himself to be deceived in his dreams every night of his life. His moral sentiment does not even make an attempt to prevent this, whereas there are supposed to be men who have stopped snoring through sheer will of power. This is like, he's great. I mean, he's saying, look, people are just like, they have no idea what they're doing. They're just like vain little pieces of shit. And like, they even think that like they're doing stuff when they're asleep, and it's ridiculous. And like, he's saying you can't even stop snoring, even though some people claim they can stop snoring. It's ridiculous. Probably the most mistaken thing about Nietzsche is thinking that he wrote The Will to Power. Well, he wrote what people interpret that as that, but like, yeah, what did he actually mean by it is harder to state. I mean, he had drives, I believe, and so you had a sort of like the general drive, and people call that the will to power. But I mean, the idea that like you get hungry, so you have a drive to eat, like that's not very that's pretty normal actually. But yeah, it's like he wrote things that they call weird will to power. Yeah. So sheer willpower, that's different though. Okay. What does man actually know about himself? Is he indeed ever able to perceive? And if I'm wrong about that, Tindaris, you let me know. Yeah, you meant that part. Okay, yeah. Because right here, they're just talking about willpower. That's different. Like that, I don't think he's saying anything unusual in that sentence. All right, what does man actually know about himself? Is he indeed ever able to perceive himself completely as laid out in a lighted display case? Does nature not conceal most things from him, even concerning his own body, in order to confine and lock him in within a proud, deceptive consciousness, aloof from the coils of the bowels, the rapid flow of the bloodstream, and the intricate quivering of the fibers? He threw away the key, and woe to that fatal curiosity which might one day have the power to peer out and down through a crack in the chamber of consciousness, and then suspect that man is sustained in the indifference of his ignorance by that which is pitiless, greedy, insatiable, and murderous, as if hanging in dreams on the back of a tiger. Given the situation, where in the world could the drive for truth have come from? Okay, the part you posted, long test, it explains the book. Okay, okie dokie. Insofar as the individual wants to maintain himself against other individuals, he will, under natural circumstances, employ the intellect mainly for dissimulation. But at the same time, from boredom and necessity, man wishes to exist socially and with the herd. Therefore, he needs to make peace and strive accordingly to banish from his world at least the most flagrant bellum omnium contra omnes. It says at the bottom, Latin, war of all against all. Yeah, so you have to get rid of that if you want to have, a little bit of fun with people. This peace treaty brings in its wake something which appears to be the first step towards acquiring that puzzling truth drive. To wit, that which shall count as truth from now on is established. That is to say, a uniformly valid and binding designation is invented for things, and this legislation of language likewise establishes the first laws of truth. For the contrast between truth and lie arises here for the first time. The liar is a person who uses the valid designations, the words, in order to make something which is unreal appear to be real. He says, for example, I am rich, when the proper designation for his condition would be poor. He misuses fixed conventions by means of arbitrary substitutions or even reversals of names. If he does this in a selfish and moreover harmful manner, society will cease to trust him and will thereby exclude him. What men avoid by excluding the liar is not so much being defrauded as it is being harmed by means of fraud. Thus, even at this stage, what they hate is basically not deception itself, but rather the unpleasant, hated consequences of certain sorts of deception. Doesn't show up. I can only see on my chat in the chat on stream. If you didn't see it go by in the like on the stream, I don't see it. Then yeah. Cynicism Mike says, I love to wit. It basically can win. Yeah, I didn't see that. I don't think Tindarius can win arguments sometimes by its mere utterance. It's a litmus test phrase. It sounds so fucking smart. You hate that the previous comment is true. Okay, Tindarius says, here's the quote from the introduction to The Will to Power by Walter Kaufmann. The book The Will to Power is not Nietzsche's book. It is a posthumous compilation of notes and fragments arranged by his sister, Elizabeth Forster Nietzsche, in a way that she believed reflected his final philosophy. However, many scholars have argued that Forster Nietzsche misrepresented her brother's work and that The Will to Power is not a faithful representation of his philosophy. Yeah, okay. Oh, there's a long lag. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if that's me or not, because it doesn't say I'm dropping frames or anything, so we'll see. Yeah, and Elizabeth Forster, Nietzsche, and her husband were actual Nazis. That's right, Henry O'Brien. So yeah, so that's the trouble, is she may have made it really in a sort of fascistic, him sound way more fascist than he was. So it's not it's hard to take, as Tinderis is pointing out, it's hard to take the will to power to be like canon in terms of what Nietzsche meant. Yeah. Yep, and that got Hitler going, and it was just bad. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, so basically, Nietzsche's claim here is that people don't really give a shit about lying. They give a shit about being defrauded. They don't like it when you say something and then you're screwed over by it. And eventually it led to the internet and Tinder. So Tinder, are we blaming Nietzsche for Tinder? Yes, let's blame Nietzsche for Tinder. That seems like the right thing to do. So he's saying, look, you don't even care about people lying. You care about, getting yourself screwed when other people lie. So then he continues. He is indifferent toward pure knowledge, which has no consequences. Towards those truths which are possibly harmful and destructive, he is even hostilely inclined. And besides, what about these linguistic conventions themselves? Are they perhaps products of knowledge, that is, the sense of truth? And are designations congruent with things? Is language the adequate expression of all realities? Yeah, so if you are really only concerned about what harms you, then what are all your conventions good for at that point? Most of them have no consequence. Tinder is the true war of all against all. Aha. Yes, swipe left, swipe right. That's how you just judge everyone and everything. Okay, it is only by means of forgetfulness that man can ever reach the point of fancying himself to possess a truth of the grade just indicated. If he will not be satisfied with truth in the forms of tautology, that is to say, if he will not be content with empty husks, then he will always exchange truths for illusions. What is a word? It is the copy in sound of a nerve stimulus. But the further inference from the nerve stimulus to a cause outside of us is already the result of a false and unjustifiable application of the principle of sufficient reason, which we just talked about last philosophy roulette. Hey, what's up? I see we got some people in YouTube. Hi, YouTube. What's up? Unfortunately, I only speak English. So you're going to have to, if you want me to respond to you, you have to speak English. But welcome in. So, and hi, Anne, on the other side, too. If truth alone had been the deciding factor in the genesis of language, and if the standpoint of certainty had been decisive for designations, then how could we still dare to say the stone is hard, as if hard were something otherwise familiar to us, and not merely a totally subjective simulation? Cynicism, everything after World War II was tech innovations caused by the war and its aftermath effects, basically proving Nietzsche's point, but in an ironic way. It's the winners, not the Nazis, who benefited from tech innovations post-war, so the idea is that competition and striving leads to greatness. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing about war. It's like whoever ends up on top at the end is going to get a lot of the goodies of it. And as opposed to, I always kind of hate the idea that we don't know what would have happened with all that money and effort if the war didn't happen. So it's kind of hard to say. There's no null case when we're talking about war. So it's like, well, if we didn't go to war, would we have lots of goodies? They would have just been different goodies. I don't know. But yeah, exactly. And you don't need war for innovation. The printing press was made, didn't have anything to do with war. Yeah, you need education, exactly. So it's you need money getting funneled into porn is great for innovation. It is. One of the best things on the internet is the Pornhub. I think it's Pornhub. They release a state of the internet where they give out all their statistics about networking and all sorts of stuff where different internet traffic is going, and they're the best source for knowledge about real things on the internet because they make money off porn, not off advertising. And so you can actually believe their statistics. So yeah. The printing press had nothing to do with war. The printing press was not caused by war. It had plenty to do with war after the fact. It may have caused wars, but it was not a wartime invention, I was saying. So I mentioned that because yeah, no, it caused wars. It was not due to war. It's like you can have innovation. The innovation may cause a war, but I did that because it was specifically backwards. It went the other way around. I don't even think the French Revolution was the first war that it started. I think there were plenty before that. Like, there was something called the 100 Years' War. I think it was started because of the printing press. They're like, those motherfuckers are saying that about me? We're going to go kill them now. And they would never have heard that if it was never printed in a book. But yeah. Okay. A lot of e-commerce is related to the adult industry. Yeah, it's the little I've heard about it, you start to realize that a lot of the innovations on video online started with porn, a bunch of stuff. And so it's like a lot of the modern things that are nice were porn innovations. So sell porn better. So it happens. Okay. And like this interactive crap, I mean, that we're doing here on Twitch, basically I'd say is, again, probably more similar to, the, what's it called? The parasocial relationship, which is most likely a sex work like or adjacent relationship where you've got one person who is sort of got, a lot more about me than I do you, and it's like this sort of like star with, not like a star, but like a person who has a certain relationship to many people, and it's not the same. Ivan says, I don't like Nietzsche's style. He's not making clear arguments. It's just rhetoric. The fact that words in any given language are arbitrary is not a sign of lack of certainty. There's some uncertainty, but it is no big deal in most circumstances. Yeah, webcamming. Well, yeah, tennis to heaven. Welcome in. Thank you. Did you? I don't know, Ivan. Like, we started off at the beginning, and he was denying that we have knowledge, basically, or that all of our knowledge is crap. And so he said, like, the universe has been here a long time. We show up and we're going to be dead a long time. The universe ain't going to give a crap. And the idea that we are getting anything right is suspect. Now, this may just be, Cartesian, like, yeah, you think you know stuff, well, you could be fooled. So maybe there's nothing particularly new about this, but he's saying it nicely. So I don't know. Yeah, Ivan, your stream crashed and now he's grumpy. Perhaps. But yeah, we're only on the first page. Grumpier than usual? I don't know. Yeah, so it's like this, he's saying, look, even if we say the stone is hard, like, that's just like what it kind of means for us. It's just a totally subjective stimulation. I mean, what exactly does like the hardness of a stone mean? I don't know, but this is what we call it. And it's like, is this going to have any grand lasting to mean anything? Now, if you want to now get into like the linguistics of like the semantics of like what does it mean to like stones and hardness, like you can get like hardcore into this, but like, yeah, exactly, giggity. But you see, the point is that like it would take work to be like, oh no, this is how semantics is. It's like, well, you're gonna have to do a lot of work. And Nietzsche was a philologist. He understands meanings of words, and he understands that you can. This is just like, it's kind of crap sometimes too. Okay. We separate things according to gender, designating the tree as masculine and the plant as feminine. What arbitrary assignments. How far this oversteps the canons of certainty. We speak of a snake. This designation touches only upon its ability to twist itself and could therefore also fit a worm. What arbitrary differentiations? What one-sided preferences, first for this, then that property of a thing? The various languages placed side by side show that with words it is never a question of truth, never a question of adequate expression, otherwise there would not be so many languages. The thing in itself, which is precisely what the pure truth apart from any of its consequences would be, is likewise something quite incomprehensible to the creator of language and something not in the least worth striving for. This creator only designates the relationship of things to men, and for expressing these relations he lays hold of the boldest metaphors. Yeah, so now he's just going after Kant for saying, you have no idea what you're talking about, thing in itself, and it's like, you're just full of crap. I mean, he's calling him the, not even worth striving for, and this creator only designates relations of things to men. It's like, it's not even like, there is nothing out of how, like, our experience, and so the idea that you're going to talk about things in itself is like ludicrous. So now we've got, if you want to get a specific dig, he's going right after Kant right there. To begin with, a nerve stimulus is transferred into an image, first metaphor. The image, in turn, is imitated in a sound, second metaphor. And each time there is a complete overleaping of one sphere right into the middle of an entirely new and different one. One can imagine a man who is totally deaf and has never heard a sensation of sound and music. Perhaps such a person will gaze with astonishment at Chladni's sound figures. Perhaps he will discover the causes and vibrations of the string and will now swear that he must know what men mean by sound. It is this way with all of us concerning language. We believe that we know something about the things themselves when we speak of trees, colors, snow, and flowers, and yet we possess nothing but metaphors for things, metaphors which correspond in no way to the original entities. Unreal says, I hadn't thought before that Nietzsche might have something to say about philosophy of language. Dude, his earlier work is, more philosophy of language than not. You get this, I was listening to some rhetoric lectures a long time ago, and that stuff he does, it's closer to philosophy of language. It really is. He moved away from that, and he's more famous for his morals, but like at the beginning, it's all this, you don't know what you're talking about, people. This is not what words mean. They change over time. And that's where he got like the word genealogy is kind of, then he said, well, let's do the genealogy of the word for like good and bad. And it's like, you can see, it's like he went from like the genealogy of the word for leaves. You think like you know what a leaf is, but they're all different, to like, you think you know what the meaning of good is, but like it's not, it doesn't hold up. So yeah. Speaking of like linguistics, because we were over in her chat earlier, in the second little comment there's Kali Oxenfree. She's a linguistic streamer. So if you're interested in Nietzsche, and linguistics, you can go hang out with the linguists on Kali Oxenfree's stream. So yeah. So let's, for the YouTube people, so you can understand what we're talking about. Okay, yeah, so it's like, this is actually an interesting claim that Nietzsche just made. Nietzsche is being like, look, imagine someone who's deaf and they feel the vibrations. Would that be the same thing? And you can do this in sort of like the contemporary theory of mind. This is like the Mary's room. Would someone who's never seen color before know what the color blue is because they had read all the things about it? Or would, similarly, someone who's deaf and felt vibrations understand what the music is like? It seems like maybe there is something to be missed, and this is nothing more than like a similar sort of thing. Yeah, Kali's always on Sunday mornings for Easter time. People, just about when you're waking up on the one day I get to sleep in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she does Sunday morning streams. So what are you gonna do? So it's interesting. We've got a straight up what's it called? I don't think I got it from there, but like if you want to download it, you can easily search this out. You just put the title in the search bar, and there's copies available. Okay. In the same way that the sound appears as a sand figure, so the mysterious X of the thing in itself first appears as a nerve stimulus, then as an image, and finally a sound. Thus, the genesis of language does not proceed logically in any case, and all the material within and with which the man of truth, the scientist, and the philosopher later would and build, if not derived from the never land, is at least not derived from the essence of things. Yeah, so again, like if you're going to go start looking at stuff, you're getting these like sense datum, and you're not getting at the essence of things, and so you're never going to get there. And you're always going to get something shifty and changing based on your nerve data that's coming into you. And so it's like, why do you actually think you're getting anywhere near the truth if you're starting from such a shoddy, crappy start? Okay. In particular, let us further consider the formation of concepts. Bad argument? Sure, you can go argue with Nietzsche. Every word instantly becomes a concept precisely insofar as it is not supposed to serve as a reminder of the unique and entirely individual original experience to which it owes its origin, but rather a word becomes a concept insofar as it simultaneously has to fit countless more or less similar cases, which means purely and simply cases which are never equal and thus altogether unequal. Yeah, so like this is a pencil and this is another pencil, but they're not the same thing. And so how do you, his mustache refutes you? Exactly. I must ask you a question. How do you know these are both pencils? When they look different, they're not in the same place, you know. Like, and how did you ever get the concept of pencil if every pencil is always different? It's like, it's a hard question to answer. And so we normally nowadays don't worry about this, but it's still very hard. Neural nets. Well, how do you know your neural net's like his neural net? It's always the abstraction for Ivan, I know. But yeah, here we go. So, here we go. Let's see. What does Unreal have for us? Aha. Yes, I must ask you a question. We go around based on assumptions. I assume that when I say something, it means the same for you. Yeah, but and the question is, how do you know the same thing? Like, how do you even know that the two pencils are both pencils? Kant actually basically said that you have to be able to do this, otherwise you're like retarded. Like literally, he was like, this is what he said. Like you're mentally deficient if you cannot like apply the same concept to multiple objects of the same type. And so it's like he thought you just were somehow a deficient human if you couldn't do this. Yeah. But like, how do you know you do it yourself? That's true. Like I think that's a linguistic, like, yeah, that's a cross language issue when you're calling me an insider. But like, yes, but this is the question of like same objects even. It's not that like you misapplied a concept because our languages are slightly different, like our background languages. It's when, how do you even know like this is a hand and this is a hand? They're not the same hand. So it's like, yeah. Ivan says neural nets find patterns that exist in the world. We both know they are pencils because our neural nets are finding the same pattern. Yeah. But how did it, like, it's one of these, how did it get trained then? It's like, go back a step, and you can do this forever. And Nietzsche knows all this. Like, you can always be like, oh, yeah, well, I've seen many of them. He knows that. He's like, well, it can just do it then. It's like, he's not denying it. He's asking, how did you do it in the first place? How did it happen in the first place? Go back to the start. When was the first thing that was said to be known? And that's where he starts from in this essay. What is the first thing to be claimed to be known? How did knowing ever come about? That's the problem here. Neural nets are self-organizing, so it's an unmoved mover. You're claiming unmoved mover status for neural nets. Okay. Anne says mental maps. When you learn something gets ingrained in your brain, literally. Yeah, well, sounds like Anne and Ivan are on the same page here. The question is, how did it happen in the first place? And if you're giving me a self-organizing, self-starting, unmoved mover is moving now, then it's like, well, sure, but have we really answered the question then? So we got to the leaf example. I knew this was coming. Okay, because this is the one I remember. This is the one I remember being quoted. Every concept arises from the equal of unequal things. Just as it is certain that one leaf is never totally the same as another, so it is certain that the concept leaf is formed by arbitrarily discarding these individual differences and by forgetting the distinguished aspects. See, he knows what you guys are saying. He is not stupid. It's like you ignore the differences. You have a map that like does some sort of abstraction. He knows this. He is arguing against that. He doesn't like it, but he knows it. This awakens the idea that, in addition to the leaves, there exists in nature the leaf, the original model according to which all the leaves were perhaps woven, sketched, measured, colored, curled, and painted, but by incompetent hands, so that no specimen has turned out to be a correct, trustworthy, and faithful likeness of the original model. You see, I don't really buy this next sentence, but like he knows what you guys are saying. He knows like, oh yeah, like you have a map in your head and you're sort of comparing them. Yeah. Well, tough shit, Nietzsche. It is what it is. And there we go. Yeah. And so Yeah, so now he's arguing against Plato, but like he understands what you guys are saying. This is not like is the 1870s. He's pretty like in terms of philosophy. This is contemporary world. Like he's seen photographs. Like we have photographs. Like he's like right here. This is him. He knows what it is to make likenesses of other things. This is pretty similar to like he's not that far away from us in terms of like philosophy, in science and other stuff in the grand scheme of philosophy. That is. So. We call a person honest, and then we ask, why has he behaved so honestly today? Our usual answer is, on account of his honesty. Honesty! This in turn means that the leaf is the cause of the leaves. We know nothing whatsoever about an essential quality called honesty, but we do know of countless individualized and consequently unequal actions, which we equate by omitting the aspects in which they are unequal and which we now designate as honest actions. And says, exactly, did the best you could for the time. Now we have amazing imaging for the brain and body in general. Yeah. So maybe some of this is getting solved by contemporary science. So finally we formulate from them a qualitas occulta, which has the name honesty. So an occult quality, some unseen quality. We obtain the concept as we do the form by overlooking, so you're right, he's going after sort of the Platonists here, by overlooking what is individual and actual, whereas nature is acquainted with no forms and no concepts, and likewise with no species, but only with an X, which remains inaccessible and undefinable for us. For even our contrast between individual and species is something anthropomorphic and does not originate in the essence of things. Yeah, he used to go after Darwinians, but history has actually treated Nietzsche on this one point kind of well. We have lots of discussions nowadays about species distinctions, and it's very hard to make. And a lot of people actually are like, there are no like hard and fast species. So science has agreed with Nietzsche on this one. Although we should not presume to claim that this contrast does not correspond to the essence of things, that would of course be a dogmatic assertion, and as such would be just as indemonstrable as its opposite. Unreal Brian says, I'm consistently surprised how prescient William James was on things that contemporary neurology has found. I wouldn't be surprised for that to end up with the case with Nietzsche too. Yeah, now these were smart people. They got some things wrong, we all do, but some of their stuff is going to hold up. What then is truth? Well, I mean, you're surprised, but like I said, this here, and this may not be your cup of tea, but the contrast with this thing right here, where he's saying that we shouldn't be making such hard and fast distinctions between the species, that is contemporary philosophy. That's how a lot of philosophy of biology is going. So you're not a biologist. Maybe you did not know this, but Nietzsche had the right idea, a little bit farther back. So, wow. Convenient for you, you didn't know when he got things right. What then is truth? A movable host of metaphors, metonymies, and anthropomorphisms. In short, a sum of human relations which have been poetically and rhetorically intensified, transferred, and embellished, and which, after long usage, seem to a people to be fixed, canonical, and binding. Truths are illusions which we have forgotten are illusions. They are metaphors that have become worn out and have been drained of sensuous force. Coins which have lost their embossing and are now considered as metal and no longer as coins. We still do not yet know where the drive for truth comes from. For so far we have heard only of the duty which society imposes in order to exist. To be truthful means to employ the usual metaphors. So this is a real reductionary theory of truth. It's not truth nominalism. There is no truth. It gets used up into other things. Truth nominalism is still around. I just heard a talk about truth nominalism a few weeks ago. Granted, it was doing other stuff than Nietzsche was doing, but truth nominalism is still a position, a legit position in philosophy. So it's again, maybe you don't agree with his methods or his why he's doing it here, but this position right here is actually perfectly reasonable position in philosophy. Thus, to express it morally, this is the duty to lie according to a fixed convention, to lie with the herd and in a manner binding upon everyone. So it's a social nominalism. Truth gets, it's just a social norm, basically. Now, man, of course, forgets that this is the way things stand for him. Thus, he lies in the manner indicated unconsciously and in accordance with habits which are centuries old, and precisely by means of this unconscious and forgetfulness he arrives at his sense of the truth. Dewey and James were quite nominalists. Weren't Quine and Sellers as well? Yeah, like, this is what I mean. This is not an unusual... I don't want to say anything about Sellers. I don't know Sellers. I think Quine was. So it's like... This is a very normal sort of position that you have truth doesn't actually mean a whole lot. It gets reduced into the ways it is used in other areas. And like, this is very analytic, actually. Although Nietzsche is reducing truth to a social thing here, a lot of analytic philosophy just reduces it like, well, when you say is true, you're not adding anything to this statement. Like I say, like, this is my right hand. It's true that this is my right hand. All I'm doing is just insisting when I say it's true that this is my right hand. Like, that's all it is. It's an insistence. So that's like you're saying when you say is true, is transparent. All I'm doing is adding emphasis. I'm not adding any new content. The idea that truth has more to it than that, you have to get out of analytic philosophy most of the time. You have to go into some other area. Like, this is a very contemporary position. Okay, from the sense that one is obliged to designate one thing as red, another as cold, and a third as mute, there arises a moral impulse in regard to truth. Anne says, when Shane told us that he learned to read at first by memory, not the logic. Yes. Yeah. There's no meaning there. Exactly. It gets reduced into other stuff. Yeah. The venerability, reliability, and utility of truth is something which a person demonstrates for himself from the contrast with the liar, whom no one trusts and everyone excludes. So yeah, again, he's just harping on the social aspect of what truth does in a society. That's all. He's saying it's social. Truth is getting socially reduced. As a rational being, he now places his behavior under the control of abstractions. He will no longer tolerate being carried away by sudden impressions, by intuitions. First, he universalizes all these impressions into less colorful, cooler concepts so that he can entrust the guidance of his life and conduct to them. Everything which distinguishes man from the animals depends upon this ability to volatilize perceptual metaphors in a schema and thus to dissolve an image into a concept. And there's your, this is your neural net. So you're doing it. He is agreeing. For something is possible in the realm of these schemata which could never be achieved with the vivid first impressions, the construction of a pyramidal order according to castes and degrees, the creation of a new world of laws, privileges, subordinations, and clearly marked boundaries, a new world, one which now confronts that other vivid world of first impressions as more solid, more universal, better known, and more human than the immediately perceived world, and thus as the regulative and imperative world. Yeah, so he's saying, look, you have all these things, your neural nets give you all these fancy concepts, but you're treating that as more important than what you got immediately from the world. And is that the right thing to do? He's saying, well, the stuff you're getting from the world is crap. And so the idea that you have concepts is also crap. Garbage in, garbage out, he's claiming. Well, it seems like where he's going with this. Whereas each perceptual metaphor is individual and without equal and is therefore able to elude all classification, the great edifice of concepts displays the rigid regularity of a Roman columbarium and exhales in logic that strength and coolness which is characteristic of mathematics. Anyone who has felt this cool breath of logic will hardly believe that even the concept, which is as bony, foursquare, and transposable as a die, is nevertheless the residue of a metaphor, and that the illusion which is involved in the artistic transference of nerve stimulus into images, if not the mother, then the grandmother of every single concept. Since his work is based on said concepts, he is self-defeating. Ivan, I finally agree with you. All the other stuff I think he can argue away. I don't think he actually can get out of it himself. I think he is stuck in this. So I actually agree with that. The other stuff he could probably get out of. I don't think he can ever get out of the fact that he is working within the system. But in this conceptual crap game, truth means using every die in the designated manner, counting its spots accurately, fashioning the right categories, and never violating the order of caste and class rank. Just as the Romans and Etruscans cut up the heavens with rigid mathematical lines and confined a god within each of the spaces thereby delimited, as with a templum. What's a templum? It's a religious area. So every people has a similarly mathematical divided conceptual heaven above themselves, and henceforth thinks that truth demands that each conceptual god be sought only within its own sphere. Alright, see you later, Anne. Friends lurk. Let's give Anne a shout out. Shout out to the Annfernal. Anyone who does not know Anne, go give Anne a follow. She's a variety streamer and sociologist and friend of the stream. And yeah, so go do that if you have not. Where were we? Yeah, so basically it's saying, look, everyone's got these conceptual apparatus. They're based on crap that you got in for whatever reason, and then you have all your concepts, and you've just made your own little gods out of these concepts, and it's just your own little gods, and it doesn't really matter. We're a blip, and our gods are a blip. So, yeah. So, let's see. Is this going to work? Let's find out. It will not. Alright, so let me do one other thing. Yep. Not show. Shout out. Is that going to work? Oh, that's not working. Okay, interesting. Alright, I can't shout you out on YouTube's. Trying, though. Alright, forget that. Okay, here one may certainly admire man as a mighty genius of construction who succeeds in piling up an infinitely complicated dome of concepts under an unstable foundation and, as it were, on running water. Funny. Of course, in order to be supported by such a foundation, his construction must be like one constructed of spiders' webs, delicate enough to be carried along by the waves, strong enough not to be blown apart by every wind. As a genius of construction, man raises himself far above the bee in the following way. Whereas the bee builds with wax that he gathers from nature, man builds with the far more delicate conceptual material which he first has to manufacture from himself. In this he is greatly to be admired, but not on account of his drive for truth or for pure knowledge of things. When someone hides something behind a bush and looks for it again in the same place and finds it there as well, there is not much to praise in such seeking and finding. Yet this is how matters stand regarding seeking and finding truth within the realm of reason. If I make up the definition of a mammal, and then after inspecting a camel declare, look, a mammal, I have indeed brought a truth to light in this way, but it is a truth of limited value. That is to say, it is a thoroughly anthropomorphic truth which contains not a single point which would be true in itself or really and universally valid apart from man. It's like, yeah, well, so what? We want to know if camels are mammals or not. I mean, so what, Nietzsche? He's like, yeah, that's knowledge, but it's crappy knowledge. It's like, well, I want to know how we think about camels. Camels are cool. But yeah, so that's, see, I'm starting to get worried. Like, he's like, oh, we do all this great stuff and it's crap. It's like, no, I want to know. I like that crap. That's cool. At bottom, what the investigator of such truths is seeking is only the metamorphosis of the world into man. Okay, so he's still pissed about the anthropomorphization. That's fair. He strives to understand the world as something analogous to man, and at best he achieves by his struggles the feeling of assimilation. So we are human, you will be assimilated. That's what he's saying. He's calling us Borg. That's what his beef is here. Similar to the way in which astrologers consider the stars to be in man's service and connected with his happiness and sorrow, such an investigator considers the entire universe in connection with man, the entire universe as the infinitely fractured echo of one original sound, man, the entire universe as the infinitely multiplied copy of one original picture, man. His method is to treat man as the measure of all things, but in doing so he again proceeds from the error of believing that he has these things, which he intends to measure, immediately before him as he measures objects. He forgets that the original perceptual metaphors are metaphors, and he takes them to be things themselves. Again, garbage in, garbage out. It's like it's all our stuff, and we're just comparing it to ourselves. So it's like we're making ourselves into like the whole universe into ourselves. Something like that. Only by forgetting this primitive world of metaphor can one live with any repose, security, and consistency. Only by means of the petrification and coagulation of a mass of images, which originally streamed from the primal faculty of human imagination like a fiery liquid, only in the invincible faith that this sun, this window, this table is a truth in itself, in short, only by forgetting that he himself is an artistically creating subject, does man live with any repose, security, and consistency. But if but for an instant he could escape from the prison walls of this faith, his self-consciousness would be immediately destroyed. It is even a difficult thing for him to admit to himself that the insect or the bird perceives an entirely different world from the one that man does, and that the question of which these perceptions of the world is the more correct one is quite meaningless, for this would have to have been decided previously in accordance with the criterion of the correct perception, which means in accordance with the criterion which is not available. Yeah. Yeah, because if you have to say this version is different from that version, you at least have to say that this version here is kind of like at least standardized. So you at least have to have standards to say one version of the universe is different from another. But he's saying you can't even say there is a standard world. And that's not available. Right there. Not available. So how would you could say that like the insect's perception is different from your own if you don't even know that your perception is a stable thing that you would know that like something else cannot see? Okay, but in any case, it seems to me that the correct perception, which would mean the adequate expression of an object in the subject, is a contradictory impossibility. For between two absolutely different spheres, as between subject and object, there is no causality, no correctness, and no expression. There is at most an aesthetic relation. I mean a suggestive transference, a stammering translation into a completely foreign tongue, for which there is required in any case a freely inventive intermediate sphere and mediating force. Appearance is a word that contains many temptations, which is why I avoid it as much as possible, for it is not true that the essence of things appears in the empirical world. A painter without hands who wished to express in song the picture before his mind would, by means of this substitution of spheres, still reveal more about the essence of things than does the empirical world. Even the relationship of a nerve stimulus to the generated image is not a necessary one. But when the same image has been generated millions of times and has been handed down for many generations and finally appears on the same occasion every time for all mankind, then it acquires at last the same meaning for men it would have if it were the sole necessary image and if the relationship of the original nerve stimulus to the generated image were strictly a causal one. And see here, he's going back after you neural net folks. He's saying, you can do this a million times. It doesn't matter. Garbage in, garbage out. Your brain is civil. Yeah, he's so anti-scientific. I know I'm kind of giving Ivan a little bit of shit on this one. But like, yeah, if people don't know, Lumpy's he's a chemist. And so it's like he's a PhD in chemistry. This is going to piss off all the scientists because all the things that they do, he's being like, no, garbage in, garbage out, and you start with garbage. But like, yeah, I get why. Like, I'm okay with it. I mean, I kind of disagree with them. We do know more than this. But, like, that's the thing. Because it is wrong. Yes. But you have to say why it is wrong. Can you tell me why it is wrong? And this is why he's referring to shitty hypotheses. Okay. Yeah, but he's saying you don't have good ones. He's saying your shitty hypotheses, yes, but you don't have good ones either. And that's kind of what's going on here. So it's like, right here. It's funny, like this clearly is not talking about neural nets or AI or machine learning or anything, but it sounds like it could have been. But when the same image has been generated millions of times and has been handed down for many generations of AI training and finally appears on the same occasion for all, final AI thingies, then it acquires at the last the same meaning for all the AI that it would have if it were the only necessary image. CinemaX says you get answers only to the questions you both ask and test for. Yeah. handed down concepts are not genetic. Well, no, he doesn't mean, he's probably talking memetic at this point. He's not talking genetic. He knows better than that. And frankly, I don't think genes had been invented yet. Or they hadn't been understood yet, not invented. I don't think in 1873 they knew what genes were. Yeah. Yeah, the collective person is civilization within a semiotic says. It's that we've been discussing this in our collective society. Remember, he's talking social here. A lot of this is a social version of truth where we all talk back and forth and then we agree upon something. But the fact that that social agreement is not truth is kind of where he's going. Yeah, Cinemax, yeah. And that's the thing. He was a philologist. He's talking about the corpus of literature and language handed down in Western civilization. Ivan says, if you used a new to me word to describe something, I only get to know it when what the word means by experience its meaning in the real world. Yeah, but it's going to be like, there's going to be framing effects. Like, I'm going to say, oh, like, this is a new word, blah, 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 and it means this in this situation. I'm going to describe more things. It's like you think about it in this way, and you say, oh, okay, I get what that word is getting at now. It's like, yes. But, like, that's the whole point, that it's you're getting this sort of history that goes with it, and I can convey that history to you, and that's what he's saying. We have got this history of words that have come down through our literature and our culture, and we sort of decided that some of these things are going to be true and false. But what does it actually amount to, other than like some sort of social control? He was saying. Yeah, grew. So, like, again, that relates to green and blue and everything you know about that, and then you throw in a little bit of philosophy, and then you get the word grew. I was like, yeah. In the same manner, an eternally repeated dream would certainly be felt and judged to be reality, but the hardening and congealing of a metaphor guarantees absolutely nothing concerning its necessity and exclusive justification. Yeah, so again, just because it's old doesn't make it good. It just means it's old. Doesn't make it right. Every person who is familiar with such considerations has no doubt felt a deep mistrust of all idealism of this sort, just as often as he has quite clearly convinced himself of the eternal consistency, omnipresence, and infallibility of laws of nature. He has concluded that so far we can penetrate here, from the telescopic heights to the microscopic depths. Yep, he's coming after you scientists right here, is what he's doing. He don't like you. From the telescopic heights to the microscopic depths, everything is secure, complete, infinite, regular, and without any gaps. Science will be able to dig successfully in this shaft forever, and all the things that are discovered will harmonize with and not contradict each other. How little does this resemble a product of the imagination, for if it were such, there should be some place where the illusion and unreality can be divined. Against this, the following must be said. If each of us had a different kind of sense perception, if we could only perceive things now as a bird, now as a worm, now as a plant, or if one of us saw a stimulus as red, another as blue, while a third even heard the same stimulus as a sound, then no one would speak of such regularity of nature. Rather, nature would be grasped only as a creation which is subjective in the highest degree. After all, what is a law of nature as such for us? We are not acquainted with it in itself, but only with its effects, which means in its relation to other laws of nature, which in turn are known to us only as sums of relations. Lumpy says, I feel like he's been shot down by a cute and sassy STEM undergrad or has failed in STEM themselves. Yeah, he did have some problems with that. There was a thing, I believe, literally, you're going full ad hominem on that? Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's like the scientists are going ad hominem. Did he hit a sore spot? But apparently, like, he was trying to get back in with some academics at a certain point. And what's it called? Someone apparently made the joke that his eyes were bad because he whacked off too much. And it kind of spoiled his relationship with the academics. And so he didn't he didn't get in with like some people he really wanted to get in with to get back into having a regular job and whatnot. So it's like, Apparently he got shot down by like a masturbation joke at a certain point in his life, and it fucked up like the trajectory of like, you know, his social circle. I don't know if that's true, but I can tell you I heard that like from a professor in university. But who knows? So yeah. Maybe he just gives off those vibes. Okay. Therefore, all these relations always refer again to others and are thoroughly incomprehensible to us in their essence. Again, he's going after see, this is the problem though. He's really just going after the Platonists. And is that the best thing to be doing? Really? Like, just always hitting on the essences, the forms of things? Yeah, I don't know. Ivan says, it sounds like he is saying something I actually do agree with. All physical quantities are relative, relational. There is no essence, which is absolute. But what difference does that make? Yes, I'm agreeing with you here. Why is like the essence, like such a big deal to him? Is it if he's only attacking the Platonist, then okay, I'm not a Platonist. Like, and I don't think too many people are, and I don't even think back in his day there were a huge amount of Platonists either. So it's like, well, why are you arguing against a straw man then? Like, a little bit odd to spend all that time against this. Okay. All that we actually know about these laws of nature is what we ourselves bring to them, time and space, and therefore relationships of succession and number. But everything marvelous about the laws of nature, everything that quite astonishes us about us therein and seems to demand our explanation, everything that might lead us to distrust idealism, all this is completely and solely contained within the mathematical strictness and inviolability of our representations of time and space. But we produce these representations in and from ourselves with the same necessity with which the spider spins. If we are forced to comprehend all things only under these forms, then it ceases to be amazing that in all things we actually comprehend nothing but these forms. For they must all bear within themselves the law of number, and it is precisely number which is most astonishing in things. All that conformity to law which impresses us so much in the movement of the stars and in chemical processes, he's definitely going after both of you right now, physics and chemists, coincides at bottom with those properties which we bring to things. Yeah, so he's saying it's us that are like this, not the world. It's just how it is. Thus, it is we who impress ourselves in this way. In conjunction with this, it of course follows that the artistic process of metaphor formation with which every sensation begins in us already presupposes these forms and thus occurs within them. The only way in which the possibility of subsequently constructing a new conceptual edifice from metaphors themselves can be explained is by the firm persistence of these original forms. That is to say, this conceptual edifice is an imitation of temporal, spatial, and numerical relationships in the domain of metaphor. So, yeah, it's like, okay, he's saying we are the mathematical things, and that's not how the world really is. And every time we just go do this, we're just, basically screwing with ourselves. It's kind of hard given the progress of science to say, look, everything is just us. But again, from his position, so what? Like, we are imposing our will on the world, but have we actually experienced the world then? Like, why, just because we can do chemistry, that means we are modifying the world to be the way we sort of look at it, not the way the world just is in itself. Who knows what the world is in itself, of course, that's kind of silly, but when we are looking at the world in this way, when we are looking to do chemistry or physics, we are looking at it in the way that's really imposing our will on the world and not the way it just is. Okay. Like, we're almost done. Like, this is, like, basically down to there. Okay. 2. We have seen how it is originally language which works on the construction of concepts, a labor taken over in later ages by science. Just as the bee simultaneously constructs cells and fills them with honey, so science works unceasingly on this great columbarium of concepts, the graveyard of perceptions. It is always building new higher stories and shoring up, cleaning and removing the old cells. Above all, it takes pains to fill this monstrous monstrously towering framework and to arrange therein the entire empirical world, which is to say, the anthropomorphic world. Whereas the man of action binds his life to reason and its concepts so that he will not be swept away and lost, the scientific investigator built his hut right next to the Tower of Science so that he will be able to work on it and to find shelter for himself beneath those bulwarks which presently exist. And he requires shelter, for there are frightful powers which continuously break in upon him, powers which oppose scientific truth, with completely different kinds of truth which bear on their shields the most varied sorts of emblems. Yeah, so he's saying, look, you have your science, but like there's other things that are true. Like he was talking about the social truths earlier. The drive towards the formation of metaphors is the fundamental human drive, which one cannot for a single instant dispense with in thought, for one would thereby dispense with man himself. Yeah, so metaphor is sort of like an abstraction, but not quite. It is an abstraction, but it's saying something is like something that it is not. So it's not like what it is, it's like something else. This drive is not truly vanquished and scarcely subdued by the fact that a regular and rigid new world is constructed as its prison from its own ephemeral products, the concepts. It seeks a new realm and another channel for its activity, and it finds this in myth and in art generally. This drive continually confuses the conceptual categories and cells by bringing forward new transferences, metaphors, and metonymies. Metonymies. It continually manifests an ardent desire to refashion the world which presents itself to waking man, so that it will be as colorful, irregular, lacking in results and coherence, charming and eternally new as the world of dreams. Indeed, it is only by means of the rigid and regular web of concepts that the waking man clearly sees that he is awake, and it is precisely because of this that he sometimes thinks that he must be dreaming, when this web of concept is torn by art. Pascal is right in maintaining that if the same dream came to us every night, we would be just as occupied with it as we are with the things that we see every day. Quote, if a workman were sure to dream for 12 straight hours every night that he was king, says Pascal, I believe that he would just be as happy as a king who dreamt for 12 hours every night that he was a workman. That's interesting. I did not know Pascal said that. That's kind of a brilliant line. So it's like, in fact, because of the way that myth takes it for granted that miracles are always happening, the waking life of a mythically inspired people, the ancient Greeks for instance, more closely resembles a dream than it does the waking world of a scientifically disenchanted thinker. When every tree can suddenly speak as a nymph, when a god in the shape of a bull can drag away maidens, when even the goddess Athena herself is suddenly seen in the company of Pisistratus, driving through the marketplace of Athens with a beautiful team of horses, and this is what the honest Athenians believed, then, as in a dream, anything is possible at each moment, and all of nature swarms around man as if it were nothing but a masquerade of the gods, who are merely amusing themselves by deceiving men in all these shapes. But man has an invincible inclination to allow himself to be deceived and is, as it were, enchanted with happiness when the rhapsodist tells him epic fables as if they were true, or when the actor in the theater acts more royally than any real king. So long as it is able to deceive without injuring, that master of deception, the intellect, is free. It is released from its former slavery and celebrates its Saturnalia. It is never more luxuriant, richer, prouder, or more clever and more daring. With creative pleasure, it throws metaphors into confusion and displaces the boundary stones of abstractions, so that, for example, it designates the stream as, quote, the moving path which carries man where he would otherwise walk, end quote. The intellect has now thrown the token of bondage from itself. At other times it endeavors with gloomy officiousness to show the way and to demonstrate the tools to a poor individual who covets its existence. It is like a servant who goes in search of booty and prey for his master. But now it has become the master, and it dares to wipe from its face the expression of indigence. In comparison with its previous conduct, everything that it now does bears the mark of dissimulation, just as that previous conduct did of distortion. The free intellect copies human life, but it considers this life to be something good and seems to be quite satisfied with it. That immense framework and planking of concepts to which the needy man clings his whole life long in order to preserve himself is nothing but a scaffolding and toy for the most audacious feats of the liberated intellect. And when it smashes this framework to pieces, throws it into confusion, and put it back together in an ironic fashion, pairing the most alien things and separating the closest, it is demonstrating that it has no need of these makeshifts of indigence, and that it will now be guided by intuitions rather than concepts. There is no regular path which leads from these intuitions into the land of ghostly schemata, the land of abstractions. Yeah, back to hating on the abstractions. There exists no word for these intuitions. When man sees them, he grows dumb, or else he speaks only in forbidden metaphors and in unheard of combinations of concepts. He does this so that by shattering and mocking the old conceptual barriers, he may at least correspond creatively to the impression of the powerful present intuition. I mean, okay. So Nietzsche's like, all right, throw down all your knowledge and then like be in the world and make your own little edifice of whatever you think and put things together in new and creative ways. This is like the sort of thing. It's what I said, I agreed with Ivan earlier. So you're just are you remaking the mistakes of the past at that point? Like, why do you think you have solved the problem of like making new concepts when you're just doing the intuitions? It was garbage in, garbage out before. Why are you any better off? Like, so what if you don't have a grand edifice, a grand castle of knowledge built on top of these things? Is it so much better than before? Like, it's garbage in, garbage out, but you're just like, who cares what level of abstraction you're at? It's all garbage, according to his earlier stuff. So I'm a little bit like, this is where I think Nietzsche doesn't quite get out. It's like, yeah, maybe you'll do some great stuff. You'll put it together in a new way. But like, how do you know you're not just making the mistakes of the past? Have you really gone through the entire history to know all the mistakes and you're doing something new? I don't know, man. All right, finish this up. Yeah, this is the last big old paragraph here. There are ages in which the rational man and the intuitive man stand side by side, the one in fear of intuition, the other with scorn for abstraction. The latter is just as irrational as the former is inartistic. They both desire to rule over life, the former by knowing how to meet his principal needs by means of foresight, prudence, and regularity, the latter by disregarding these needs and, as an overjoyed hero, counting as real only that life which has been distinguished as illusion and beauty. Whenever, as was perhaps the case in ancient Greece, the intuitive man handles his weapons more authoritatively and viciously than his opponent, then, under favorable circumstances, a culture can take shape, and art's mastery over life can be established. See, again, it's like, oh yeah, so we've got someone who actually like just feels the world and can be intuitive, but then like, what are you doing with it? Like, you're just gonna make art's mastery over life can be established. And it's like, okay, then you're going to have a different society. It's like, okay. All the manifestations of such a life will be accompanied by this dissimulation, this disavowal of indigence, this glitter of metaphorical intuitions, and in general, this immediacy of deception. Neither the house, nor the gate, nor the clothes, nor the clay jugs give evidence of having been invented because of a pressing need. It seems as if they were all intended to express an exalted happiness, an Olympian cloudlessness, and, as it were, a playing with seriousness. The man who is guided by concepts and abstractions only succeeds by such means in warding off misfortune without ever gaining any happiness for himself and these abstractions. Yeah, so again, this is a point. How do you actually get anything good out of your abstractions? What is the creative thing there? This is we've got all the AI art now, but it needs to be prompted. It does not actually just do stuff that it finds interesting. It needs to be prompted to do stuff. And so this is sort of the criticism we have now. It's that like it is a reactive. So it's only a warding off. It's a reactive thing. It's a reactionary. It is not actually an agent. It's a warding off. So it's reactionary sort of thing here. Yeah, okay. Oh, I thought it went dead for a second. Thank you, computer, for doing stupid things. Okay. And while he aims For the greatest possible freedom from pain, the intuitive man standing in the midst of a culture already reaps from his intuition a harvest of continually influencing in illumination, cheer, and redemption. How does Nietzsche know what the intuitions of the intuition of the intuitive man's are? How does he know this is good? Illumination, cheer, and redemption. How does Nietzsche know that that's what the intuitive man gets? Why does he think that that's what you get just by being that way? I don't understand that. That's a big old assumption that, like, what I say is right because this is the better way to be. Well, how do you know? And he'd be like, well, you don't know. That's the whole point. That's not the knowledge. But again, what's Nietzsche claiming here? In addition to obtaining a defense against misfortune, so the intuitive man also has a defense against misfortune. Not explained why exactly. Maybe because the intuitive man would interpret things just as they came and wouldn't feel the misfortune because you'd only know about the misfortune if you had been doing risk management. If you didn't know about risk management, you wouldn't feel the misfortune. It would just be like, oh, that's just what happened. Okay. To be sure, he suffers more intensely when he suffers. He even suffers more frequently since he does not understand how to learn from experience and keeps falling over and over again into the same ditch. Yeah, see, this is the problem. You need a little risk management, man. He is then just as irrational in sorrow as he is in happiness. He cries aloud and will not be consoled. How differently the stoical man who learns from experience and governs himself by concepts is affected by the same misfortunes. This man who at other times seeks nothing but sincerity, truth, freedom freedom from deception and protection against ensnaring surprise attacks now executes a masterpiece of deception. He executes his masterpiece of deception in misfortune as the other type of man executes his in times of happiness. He wears no quivering and changeable human face, but as it were a mask with dignified symmetrical features. He does not cry, he does not even alter his voice. When a real storm cloud thunders above him, he wraps himself in his cloak and with a slow step he walks from beneath it. Sinister says, remember, Nietzsche never submitted this for publication. These are his thoughts in essay form. Interesting. So he was pissed off at the Stoics too. Hooray! We're still pissed off at the Stoics. Well, that was fun. I think it pissed off a whole bunch of people in chat. It's yeah. So basically, he's going after the Stoics in the end. Where did he say Stoic? This man and blah 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 blah. Yes, it's so hard to go through this so quickly. Yeah, Broic, exactly. He in the end, he's saying, look, all the stuff where you're doing risk management constantly, this is literally your finance bro guys. He's like, these people are miserable because all they're worried about is their charts and numbers. And it's that's why they're miserable, because they are disconnected from the world. That's all you're doing with all your charts and numbers. Yeah, you are avoiding pain, but you do not know how to gain happiness. And that's what he's saying. It's you have missed the point, because the way to happiness is to experience the world in some ecstatic way. He just calls the intuitive man with an continually inflowing illumination, cheer, and redemption. Who the fuck knows if they actually get that? But he's saying the reactive man is just doing risk management all the time, and that's just terrible. Yes, also the STEM lords and their lab p-hacking. Yeah, that too. But I mean, that's it. This is all the same thing. It's all the little science directed at stuff that is protecting you against one thing or another, but it's not actually bringing you anything good. I think this is a little bit unfair. Doing science is fun. It can be fun. You can learn stuff about the world, but I guess he was saying you don't actually learn anything about the world. You're learning stuff about yourself, and so it's kind of you're just learning more about people. Yeah, modern Stoics. So he was pissed at the Stoics too. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. How differently the stoical man who learns from experience and governs himself is affected by the same misfortune. So it's even the Stoic person, they're just walking out from underneath the clouds. It's but they are missing the point, I guess, at the end. If you want, you should experience a thunderclouds. It's cool. But this person just walks away from the cool things in the world. A thunderstorm you should experience is awesome, I guess. And the Stoic just misses the point of having like being in a cool storm. It's like you just walk away from all the cool things. So I am in the end in agreement with this anti-Stoic stuff. I am not always buying the Nietzsche ideal, but how about you give me your thoughts and stuff? Give me a little rating here. As usual, this is what we do here. Use the titles that are here. So Brain Dance, small b, big D, for fun ideas. You can also use the Twitch global emotes, vote yay and vote nay. I should write that down. But yeah. So I kind of agree with the anti-stoical stuff at the end. I don't buy that the sort of the intuitive way of experiencing the world, that Nietzsche has any idea what he's talking about. He's making up a fantasy in sort of like what the ancient Greeks were up to. I have no idea if this is how they did experience the world, outside of, like if he's confused their theater with, their daily life. Did they actually ever think Athena was just coming through the marketplace? I mean, maybe? Like, did they really think that, or was that just kind of like the fun thing they used to say? Yeah, and the other thing is, I'm not so against the idea that, when we go looking for scientific things, that's what we find, but that may not be how the world is in some grand sense. But I'm okay with that thought. I mean, I actually kind of like that one. But again, this is not Scream. Nog Scream, yeah. Yeah, so if you need me to fix it, I'll fix it, or you can just retype it. There we go. Thank you. So some people like this. So we got a split here. His presentation was impenetrable in your opinion, too hard to interpret. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't make it better. But again, I don't think it's directed at you. He started off with the social criticism of knowledge, which as a scientist, I don't think science people are gonna like. And then his stuff is over 100 years old. Semiotics is giving it lots of yays. Semiotics likes this. What am I gonna say? Science of the 1870s, exactly. So I mean, I don't know if Tindarius made it. Tindarius had asked us to read some actual Nietzsche as opposed to a few weeks ago where we had a poor interpretation of the eternal recurrence. But let's see, I should give something. Say, this is worth a read. I mean, you may not agree with this, but that doesn't make it not worth a read. This is definitely, I think this is Nog Scream territory. It's telling you what exactly, like, how you're supposed to live, basically. So we're gonna give this 2 Nog Screams. This is basically existential stuff. It's like, look, there are 2 ways to be. You can be risk managers, or you could go be out having fun, not worrying about risk. And each of them have their problems. If you're worrying about like the science and like how the world is, you're not actually gonna go experience what's good about being human. Is that exactly right? No, but like you can still, work hard, play hard, but at the end he goes hard against the Broics. So it's like, yeah. Well, I'm very pleased with your ecumenical position, Ivan, that you're trying to like expand beyond your other stuff. I had to do this for the longest time. I could not understand Hegel. And I mean, like, I wanted to understand Hegel. I'm like, why do people like Hegel? Took me forever. But then I figured something. I'm like, oh, I see why people like it. He's still wrong. I don't like him because he's an idealist. But like, at least I get it now. I'm like, yeah, I got you. Like, I got you, man. I can see why people are impressed with it. It's like, all right. And I can see why people make hay out of it too. So yeah, Hegel. Like I said, but he's wrong, but I see why people like him. It's like, I get it now. It's like, you're wrong, but I get you. I got you. It's like, okay. So yeah, it's a vote yay, and it's a 2 existential. Again, a lot of style here. So a little bit of that, which is all right. Cool. So if anyone else wants to get, thank you all for your votes. I appreciate it. Will go up on the site. And yeah, I guess that's it for now. So we'll Ivan says, I think Nietzsche's writing is so unclear that people easily read into him what they want to see. I don't think he's that unclear, actually. Yes, that's going to happen. Happens all the time. But I mean, basically when you get to the end over here, he's got the intuitive man and he's got the man of science or whatever, the stoic man. True of continentals in general. That's fair. I don't think Nietzsche is that bad, actually. I think when you get down to it, he's reasonably clear a few times. Like this thing here, right at the end, you've got like your two different kinds of men. He doesn't like one, he likes the other. And he says, look, it's better to be this way than that way. Don't agree with him, but I think his end conclusion was clear enough. Then what was back up here? Oh, well, that was a quote from Pascal. That was cool. Good pull quote, Nietzsche. Yeah, this was the other one I want to do. So this is the passage that looks like he is literally could be just, it's not directly translatable into like current stuff, but like you could say like all these millions of times words have been used and now it's been like distilled down into a single meaning. This would be like, training the AI model until it, finally recognizes what you want it to recognize. And this is his argument against that. He's just doing it in the context of the language filtering down through the history since, classical times. And so it's like, you can pretty clear argument here what he's doing, like all like through culture these words have come with us and like it's been filtered down, and it's like, okay, but does that actually mean anything? Because just because it's been filtered down through culture, or is this just us in a circle jerk? That's it. So I think like a few spots here reasonably clear. Is it worse than other philosophers? Meh. I mean, analytic philosophers are supposedly clear. A lot of times they're full of shit, though. So, that's why we get the emotes we do, like the golden turd. Looks all shiny, but it's shit underneath. So, who knows? Again, like, yeah, this was this point where he was saying that we should not be so readily making species distinctions in biology. Again, like I said, that's... As far as I know currently, that's contemporary philosophy of biology. They agree with that. Yeah, this is the leaf. How do you actually have a... Well, this is the conceit, he says. The conceit is that when did we start actually making two things say one thing? Like, we've got two different things here, and we're call both of them leaves. Like, how did that ever start? We don't know. But, like, it did. So, what are you going to do? Okay. But that was for Tindarios. Thanks for sticking out. I hope you rest. Go get some sleep and don't fuck up your sleep schedule anymore on account of this. It begins once upon a time. Remember that. Yeah, that's the other thing. That's a good point. I mean, he's saying like, look, you have to realize we're blips. And so all the stuff we're saying is like, why are we getting so like hung up about truth here? Like even everything coming down through the generations is like, that's not that long. So yeah, good point. So yeah. Ivan says, abstractions are necessary for all cognition, even about individuals. You never see the same leaf in the same angle, the same light. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So why did we ever do this? How did we ever start that? Now maybe he's begging the question by asking that. Like he's asking the big question. How is any consciousness possible? That's hard. That's a hard question. And so maybe this is unfair. He begged the question, asking an unfairly big question at the start. Principia, petitio principii. Like, that's the whole thing. You have to ask the small question first, not the big one. So maybe he actually, violated the begging the question here on that. But, it's like you can't answer where did consciousness come from. Yeah, we aren't doing it. Unconscious neural nets are doing it. Yeah, but he'd say hand waving at like some like other machine that's doing it. How did they start doing it? How? When did that start happening? And you're just gonna say, well, it does. But again, that's the untrained trained thing. It just does it. And then, oh man, the philosophy theories that are trying to just say how these things work are terrible. You get what's it called? Semantic magnetism, which says that the neural nets are getting pulled by something in the world to, like, almost magnetically. This is just a mystical semantic force that they're glomming onto, like, real distinctions in the world. Somehow, we don't know how that happens. Evolution, yeah. Well, how does it happen that, like, okay, it's unclear though. Like, you can't just evolution this. Like, you're just saying, okay, it does. That's all you're saying when you say evolution. But it's like, how does it actually work? We don't quite know these things. And then there's what's it called? Because, like, the problem with that is, like, you know, this is a quarter. Is a like, where's the semantic and how's it happen every time? It's like you have to go on and be like, that we somehow have words for things that we've, like, made more recently, like internet. Like, how do we actually connect those things? And then you have to get into, like, expert theory. Like, we learn the words from experts and stuff, and it gets very, very messy. Very messy. So it's like, I still have sympathy with this stuff. It's like, I don't love, like, yes, I know the science works, and there's a lot of stuff that, like, we're working on and we're getting there. But I have a lot of sympathy for these people that, like, we really don't have all of our shit together. We really do, like, I'm one of these, we don't have all of our shit together sort of philosophers. I'm cynic. So it's like, yeah, I'm on there's more problems than solutions side. Ivan says fish want to eat seaweed. Genes for cells forming sensory networks that respond to patterns common in seaweed thrive. Okay. It's like, sure. How did that happen though? Like, do we just be like, genetics? It happens. It's good. It's like, okay, just like, it's got self-replicating little machines that do this stuff. It's like, yeah, I got you. I understand that stuff. But you know, it's a long way from just being like, you know, evolution to explaining meaning. Yeah. Yeah, you can, that's the thing. You can say that for evolution in generally. It's just a long way. And I'm not, like, arguing for any, like, metaphysical thing like, oh, we're doing magic here. It's just, I don't think we have it all figured out yet. That's all. Tommy, what's going on? Oh, I'm sorry we didn't get the TTS. Once upon a time, I was a 2-month subscriber. Now I'm a 3-month subscriber. The end. Yes. Thank you for the subscription. And why is my bot always fucking down? It is so annoying. There's not really any way I'm going to be able to fix it, but we can at least do this.
Once upon a time, I was a 2-month subscriber. Now I am a 3-month subscriber. The end.
There we go. Thank you for the subscription. You were moved from your prior 2-month commitment. Question is, who moved me into a subscriber at all? Jeff Bezos. So yeah. But yeah, so that was a little fun read of Nietzsche. It's only been an hour and 42. Maybe I can go do something quick. Boom. There we go. Mustache. I must ask you a question. But that was on Truth and Lies in a non-moral sense. So what's going on, everyone? I was saying, I know I got into that really quick because Tindarios needs to sleep. So I didn't do my normal chatting for the beginning of stream. How is everyone? I hope you're well, Ivan, Tommy. Anne's back. Say hello, Anne. Valpo was around. Who else was here? Unreal Brian. Adam Fish. Adam was here. Yeah. Oh, cool. Semiotics, of course. Oh, by the way, anyone who does not know, Semiotics is doing an art project. If you want to help out, do some AI art project, then click on link and, feel free to participate. Appreciate that. Yeah, and I'll look. Oh, and says something. I gotta go look at the video if we want to like do it. We could do it next time or something. Yeah. So, yeah. So everyone, if you want to go click on unfound art, you just put in like a few choices, and then we're gonna have like some generated stuff. Yeah. Submit your art. Submit your form. Make some art. Submit your form. We'll make some art out of it. So there we go. If anyone has any idea what else I should be doing with my time, let me know. Like I said, I was thinking actually about Descartes' cogito, and there's some things like why is it that people sort of obsess over the Descartes' cogito? What makes that so fancy? And there's people have talked about this since he wrote it down. And it's like, I think, therefore I am. But, one of the things is like, well, here's a pencil. Pencils are things, therefore, yeah, pencils exist. Like, what does it mean? Like, I think, therefore I am. Or I go walking, therefore I am. Or I'm talking, therefore I am. All of that stuff. Why? Have a good night. Thank you for being here on O'Brien. Appreciate you stopping by and chatting. Yeah, you had to be up early for a Kali stream, I know. So, but like, that's the question. What is the difference? Like, if I go walking, it's like, I walk, therefore I am. It's like, yes, if you can walk, there you are. This is kind of like the Moorian thing. Here's a hand. Hands exist, therefore the world exists. It's like, why is it I think, therefore I am more impressive than all the other ones? And you can find some of it in like his notebooks and stuff. Like, he was trying out different stuff. This is like one of these, like, you can kind of look at all the different things he was saying. So you can find out like that he actually was like trying out different versions of this. And like, why did he end on the I think version? Now there's some different theories. There's the when you think that you are thinking, you cannot deny that you are thinking. There's the performative idea that you're performing the act that you are talking about, and in that sense you are self-confirming. So you are self-confirming the theory that you are saying. That so when you think, then you are thinking. And so you don't have to do anything else because it is a performance of the actual action that you are doing when you are saying you are doing it. So this sort of self-reflective view on it goes back to Hintika, but it's like when you do it, you cannot deny it. And so that makes it the sort of self-confirming thing. And that's an interesting theory because that means it's like, it's not just like if you go walking, therefore you are. Well, I'd have to actually be walking. But when you think that you're thinking, then you are thinking. Okay, so there you go. So it's like it's a different thing because the action is demonstrating itself. When you go walking, you're demonstrating walking, but like you actually have to do it. But thinking just happens immediately. Like you could be wrong about walking. You can't be wrong when you think you're thinking. This led into a people criticize Hintika for this. They were like, dude, it's not like a performance thing. Like performatives, like you can like, they're like social things. Like when you get married and you say I do at your wedding or whatever, then you get married because that's what you do. But like that's a social thing. It's like in your head, is that really what's going on? If you're treating this like a logical thing, so what if like there's no performance that like is logic? Like kind of works, kind of doesn't. What exactly is going on with that? So it's like, no, what's really happening is you're doing a self-reflexive statement. It's more like the liar paradox. So it's not that when you're thinking this is what happens, it's that you're being self-referential. It doesn't matter when you're doing it. It matters that you're being self-referential. So it's that when you say you're thinking, you are thinking. It's not when you're thinking you're doing it. It's that you are saying what you're talking about yourself as you do it. Splitting hairs, I know. But like the liar paradox is like, well, I say I'm lying right now. Well, you're talking about what you're doing. So it says when I say I think, it means I am talking about what I am doing right now. That's kind of also a little suspect too. It's like, are you really talking about yourself or are you performing it? Hard. Systemax says, Kant explains why the fact that you are thinking is not evidence that you are thinking. There could be a being hallucinating itself to be you, or that thoughts are thoughts by some other entity that does the thinking for you. It proves only that thought exists. Yes. So that's the other problem, that who is the I and I think. It could just be a thinking thing is thinking. So this is a problem. Yeah, goes back to Kant at least. And so yeah, that's the other thing. So this, it seems a little bit better in the Hintika version, where you're saying when the thinking thing is thinking, then that thing is the thinking. You can just like sort of indexical to the thing that says I'm thinking right now and I can't deny that. When you do the logic one that says when you're thinking you are self-referring, then it is completely unknown who is doing that referring. It's just the sort of the words referring to themselves and there's no thing. And so the Hintika version, I think, is a bit more amenable to saying the first person perspective, or at least a self-referential perspective. When you do the logic, it's just saying, well, the words are referring to themselves, then who the hell knows what like that perspective is. I think in big butts and I cannot lie. Well, that's great. You have any pictures to share? When you think of big butts, you cannot lie about thinking of big butts? I don't know. So, should we have an analysis of Sir Mix-a-Lot? So, I think of big butts, therefore I am. Yeah, something along those lines. That would work. That would make a good song. You wouldn't trust those pictures weren't an illusion of the demon. But see, here's one of those things. I wouldn't care at that point. In fact, I want a demon to get me the best possible pictures. That is the whole point. Like, it wouldn't matter that the pictures were an illusion. The pictures weren't a real person anyway. So if like you're giving me the best pictures in the world of big butts, that's a perfectly, like that is a sufficient picture of a big butt. It wouldn't matter if it's an illusion or not. Therefore, I defeated that is the big butt defeat of the demon right there. So yeah. Questions. Man, none of these papers look even remotely interesting. What's going on? Maybe we'll go back to one of these things I've got saved. Hey, yeah, talking about big butts, Aristotle. How Aristotle was off at the conference flaming some Stoics. Now, if we had to review Aris's paper, what would we review Aris's paper? Did they give Aris's paper some grapes? He come in with the big claims and did it all shrivel up, or did he bring the fire? I'm thinking when they heard that they were giving him some like nog screams, they're like, oh shit, he's got like some like fucking like giving us crap here. Like, I was thinking like that's what they were gonna do. They were gonna be like, maybe they'll give him a nog brain dance. Oh yeah, wait, that's just brain dance. I'm an idiot. Don't even know my own emails. This is how I would rate Aris's paper. But then again, they might have been like, oh well, this is grapes and golden turds. Like shrivels up and is all crap underneath. But like that's how I did. So I hope the talk went well. I'm starting to lose my voice. That's not cool. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, welcome in, Aris. I'll give Aris a shout out. Aris. Got a bunch of people like in chat, but like I think it's mostly the regulars. That's fine. If you don't know who Aristotle is, oh yeah, that's what I did. I killed my thing. He's philosopher of ancient Greek and Roman philosophy, ethicist also. Starting to be an expert in cynic philosophy and yeah, general shit poster. So go give him a follow. Does Ask Me Anything stream, so you can go there and ask him literally anything. And yeah, it went well. Lots of Stoic haters in the audience. Oh, interesting. So turns out like it was sort of it was a mixed audience, and so you were making friends. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, because he went to a Stoic conference and had a talk where he gave his title of his talk was Stoicism Sucks. And so yeah, so that's cool. Stoic haters. Is that like a thing? Like I wonder if like the Stoics Anonymous or something. People are trying to be less stoic. Ooh, Stoics Anonymous. That would be a great fucking thing. Yeah, they were laughing hard. That's fantastic. That is like literally the best. You'll have to give a rundown on your next stream. Because like, yeah, that's really funny. Yeah. Unfortunately, my voice is starting to go. I was not expecting this. I have not been talking that much. No, it was. I was doing work earlier. I got a lot of dust on my face today. Damn. I don't know if I should really read another paper. Like, seriously, my voice is going. They were only laughing because they cannot control their emotions. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some people who claim stoic, but they were really closet not stoics. They thought like stoicism sound cool, so they were just like in the closet stoics. No, in the closet non-stoics. And so it's like, yeah. Rest of my voice, yeah. Like it really dropped off after like the last 15 minutes. That was unexpected though. Usually I can go a little bit farther than this. But yeah, short stream today then, I guess. That's all right. Let's see. Is there anything new? Ethics of climate change, brains and minds. I just want to look at this stuff. Go take a quick look. See if it's available. Yeah, this is still open access, some of this stuff. Because that was a more popular journal. I want to see if they put out another issue. June 2023. No, this is the same stuff. No. Journal home. Let's see. Why monarchy should be abolished? Oh, people love monarchies, though. They're so cute, see. Jordan Peterson's confusion over religious symbolism. A lesson from Cain and Abel. Should you upload your mind? How long is this? 33 to 37. Let me just see what this looks like. View PDF. Oh, no, it's double. Nah. Double column sucks. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah. I'm going to have to get out of here. My voice is starting to go, and it's annoying. But thank you all for being here, and let's go find someone to raid. I'm trying to think, I've been trying to think, maybe I should go raid some people I don't normally raid. But, like, usually I'm just doing the same old people. Thanks, Ivan. I know you had a rough time with your stream. Sorry to hear that, but, like, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sitting through the Nietzsche. I know it's not your cup of tea. You want to go hang out with a goth chick who's playing Elden Ring? Good to know the enemy? Exactly. You got to understand where these people are coming from. If you don't understand where they're coming from, you're not going to understand their criticisms, and you're never going to change any of their minds about anything if you don't understand what they're talking about. Oh, whoa. Uh-oh. Got an oh, whoa. You want to go to a guy named Wetty. His name used to be Wet for Jesus. WKC, of course. We rated him before. Yeah, because I got no one normally. Unless you got suggestions. Otherwise, we'll go raid Elisa Prey. With, she's got 100 viewers. Doesn't really need it, but, There's no catch. She also has good taste in music, so she's usually just blasting music all the time. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Treat yourselves well. Have a good night. Release is cool. Don't be an asshole. And you will all be part of the besties now. So I will see you hopefully on the other side. Yeah, thank you, Lumpy, Aris, Ivan, Cinesemiotics, Unreal Brian. If I remember, I can't remember anything anymore. Anyway, we'll talk you up. Yes. Bye-byes.